2009, I ran my first and my last marathon all on the same day. Today, I want to share with you lessons learned from running a marathon. I want to welcome you to Fully Alive with Jeff Kapusta. If you have not subscribed, be sure to do that. I want to know this right out of the gate. If you are a runner, drop a runner emoji in the comment section. If you are like, good Lord, no, drop a big red X, okay? I want to know who I'm talking to today because I want to share with you 10 things I learned from running a marathon. Here's the first thing that I learned. If it was easy, everyone would do it. Okay, marathons are hard. According to several sites, 0.1% of the population will ever run a marathon. So if you've done it, congratulations. You are in the 0.1%. You know, successful people, when I think about this, successful people didn't become successful because it was easy. You know, so often we see the highlight reel of people's lives, but can we all agree highlight reels aren't real? There's the daily grind. And I found that even in life, not just running a marathon, because again, that was a one and done for me, but in life, everyone wants to do what you do, but they don't want to do what you did. Can I tell you, success takes work, just like running a marathon. If it was easy, everyone would do it. Here's the second thing I learned while running a marathon. Misery loves company. So get a partner. Don't do it alone. When I was starting to run, I was doing it simply because I needed to lose some weight. I remember when I threw a tweet out there. You guys remember when it was called Twitter before it was called X? Okay, same thing, but different name. I tweeted out there that I need to lose some weight and I'm going to start running. Does anybody want to run with me? Had a couple people respond and only one ended up sticking it out. It's my friend AJ. He said, I'm in. And so we started running, and what started out as two guys just trying to get in shape ended up becoming two guys training for a marathon. I can tell you this, if it wasn't for my friend, I would have never stuck it out. Misery loves company. Get yourself a partner. Here's the third thing that I learned in running a marathon. The hardest part is getting out of bed. Quite honestly, it's the hardest part of the entire process. We picked a training plan that took about 6 months, and it caused us to run 5 days a week. And we just decided early in the morning is the best time. There's nothing in the way of running except for sleep. And so we would commit to meet at a certain place at a certain time. And so early in the morning, rain or shine, we ran. Hot or cold, we ran. Long runs on Saturday, we ran. But I need you to know, sometimes the hardest part to any commitment is just simply getting up in the morning. And had I not had a friend, I probably wouldn't have gotten out of bed. So misery loves company. Get yourself a partner. Hardest part's getting out of bed. Here's the fourth thing that I learned when running this marathon. Number 4, you got to start where you are. Start where you are. I know a lot of people are like, well, I could never run a marathon. Well, first off, with that mentality, you'll never run a marathon. But just because you can't run a marathon today doesn't mean that you won't be able to run a marathon eventually. There was no way when I started running I could run a marathon. I am not a natural runner. So there has been one season of my life where I ran like on purpose, okay? Typically I would tell people, if you see me running, you should run too. There's danger like behind me. When I was in high school, I played baseball, okay? So like most I ever ran was 90 feet at a time, like, you know, home plate to first base. That's it. And my baseball coach tricked us into running indoor track. Now, I don't know if you went to a school that had indoor track. The only difference between indoor track and outdoor track is the track was smaller, which meant that your likelihood of getting lapped increased, okay? And so normally, you know, an outdoor track is like 4 laps is a mile. Well, indoor track, 16 laps was a mile. And so when you're slow as I am, it's embarrassing because you gotta, like, you see the same people over and over and over, and I absolutely hated it. I hated running, and I thought, I'm never going to do this. I'm never going to run. But here I am having run a marathon. I want to tell you, you've got to start where you are. The only way that you'll ever increase your capacity is to push against it. They say running a marathon is a lot like eating an elephant. How do we do that? It's one bite at a time. So when my friend AJ and I, when we started our training, it was just a couple miles. I mean, you know, 1 mile turns into 2 miles, turns into 3 miles. What we learned is when we got to 5 or 6 miles, if you're 5 miles or less, people think you're normal. If you are 5 miles or more, people think you're training. And people started asking us, are you guys training for something? And we talked and we were like, you know what? What if? what if we were to, let's do it. Let's run a marathon. And we're like, this is insane. But we started where we were. And that's what I want to tell you. If you're going to do it, you got to start where you are. Here's the fifth thing I learned. You got to run your pace. If I could take you to race day, some of the best advice I got was simply this: when the gun goes off, run your pace. And I am so thankful for this. We had trained and we had trained and we had trained and we knew our pace, but the excitement of the moment, thousands of people packed in, and all I want to do is pass everyone. And the gun goes off and we're not even moving. We're like, it's like cattle. And I'm like, we got to go, folks. We got to go. And as we began to run, I started realizing I'm getting passed by everyone. Like, I got passed by Santa Claus, for crying out loud. Pregnant people with strollers are passing me. People in costumes are faster than I am. And I learned something. It's not how you start, it's how you finish that matter. And if you don't run your pace, you'll burn out before you finish the race. So you've got to run your pace. I'm so thankful for that advice because, man, it saved me in those early miles. Here's the sixth thing that I learned. As the commitment increases, the crowd thins. Let me say that again. As the commitment increases, the crowd thins. You see, when we lined up for that race, it was called the Thunder Road. It was in Charlotte, North Carolina. And our race was actually, at the starting line, it was people running a marathon, a half marathon, and a 5K, all packaged together. But I didn't know who was doing what. And so when the gun went off and we all took off, I mean, when it started, I mean, it was just a mob of people. And then at the 5K mark, it seemed like half of the crowd just disappeared, gone. I'm like, okay, half of us are gone. And then when we got to the 13.1 mark, it felt like everybody else finished. And all of a sudden, it is now it's just us. Like, I had times where I'm wondering, are we even still on the right route, for crying out loud? And I was like, what started as a mass of people thinned out at every stage. Can I tell you, in life, when it comes to success, as commitment increases, the crowd thins. Here's the seventh thing that I learned. As the crowd thins, the cheerleaders do as well. See, in the beginning, the streets were lined with just, everybody, friends, fans, neighbors. There were marching bands out there. And then as you went, there was, you go by and people had signs and they're cheering for you and they're shouting your name. It was so festive. And my own family and friends, they would drive from one spot to the other to cheer for us. We kept seeing them. They kept popping up along the way. But as the crowd began to thin, so did our cheerleaders. Can I tell you, in life, the more you are committed to something, the fewer people are going to cheer for you. I remember where it got near the end of this, and it was like the only thing we heard was the pounding of our shoes. And you got to learn to encourage yourself, and that's exactly where we're at, because the cheerleaders were no longer there. A couple more things that I learned from this marathon. The eighth is this: celebrate small victories. There's a reason they put mile markers at every single mile. See, our training took us up to 18 miles. And I remember thinking, like, okay, we've run 18 miles. Where's the other 8.2 miles gonna come from? And I just remember being told, like, stick to the plan, stick to the plan, stick to the plan. And when we crossed that 18-mile mark, we kept saying to each other, we've never run this far before. Every mile was a new distance that we had logged. And we learned to celebrate small victories. We're high-fiving each other every mile. I pull my little camera out. I'm like, we're at mile 19. And it was a huge victory. Celebrate small victories. Two more. Number 9, you got to push through the pain. Listen, if you want to do what few do, you'll need to get comfortable being uncomfortable. I remember running, and man, at some point, Mike, everything started to hurt. My feet were hurting. My hamstrings were hurting. My back was hurting. I had cramps in my sides. They talk about hitting the wall. A lot of people say when you run a marathon, you'll hit the wall where your body physically starts shutting down. Well, this particular marathon, they had a wall. There was like a brick wall, and you ran right through it. And I remember taking my little camera, and I'm like, we just hit the wall. We're crushing the wall. But everything in me was hurting. I think about David Goggins, who said this. He said, when your mind tells you you're done, you're only 40% done. Your body is way more capable than you think. Now, I didn't hear Goggins say that till after the fact. Kind of wish I had heard him, because I just remember literally like telling myself, like, shut up, feet, shut up, body, take the next step. Let's keep going. You got to push through the pain. Here's the 10th and final thing that I learned. Never underestimate the power of optimistic ignorance. That is a superpower. Optimistic ignorance. You know, Henry Ford says, he who says he can and says he can't are usually both right. There's something about just in your mind saying, you know what? I got this. I can do this. I'm going to accomplish this. I was like the little engine that could, like, I think I can. I think I can. I think I can. I remember when we were running, we came up on this guy and we passed him, and on the side of his head was written Philippians 4:13. Now, I don't know if you know that verse, but it says, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And now, for what it's worth, that verse has nothing to do with running a marathon, okay? It's about living with contentment. There's a lot more to it, not running. But in that moment, I was like, yes, I can do all things through Christ. And I just passed this guy, and we're going to do this. We're going to accomplish this. And I tried my best to focus on, you know, completing this and getting it done. And I can do this. And, you know, we didn't come this far to only come this far. Because here's the deal, guys. We can either make excuses or we can make it happen. Optimistic ignorance is like, no, we got this. We're going to do this. And we just got to keep taking the next step, the next step, the next step. Because listen, if you keep taking the next step, eventually you'll cross that finish line. And man, we crossed, and they wrapped us in this like aluminum foil. We look like baked potatoes walking around, and they brought our medals and they put it on, and it was incredible to finish. Now, did we set a record? Lord, no. We were like 4 hours and 12 minutes, something like that. But we did it. We did what 0.1% of the population do. I mean, 99.9% of the population will never do this, and we did it, and we wouldn't have done it if it hadn't been for having a friend, getting out of bed, you know, celebrating small victories. And whether you're a runner or maybe your race is getting a business up and going, raising your kids. Here's the deal. We're all running a race. I want to encourage you this week, whatever it is you're doing, push through the pain, get out of bed, make it happen, have optimistic ignorance. And while you're doing it, how about this? If you're out for a run, snap a photo. Just get that selfie, you and your running partner, tag me in it. I'll repost it this week. I want to celebrate with you. Let's hashtag it running my race. If you're showing up at work, just snap a photo, hashtag running my race. Let's celebrate small victories together. Let's do this. Guys, you've got an incredible call in your life, and you will not fulfill it without showing up day in and day out. Those are just a few lessons that I learned from a marathon. You got a few others? Drop them in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Have a good one.